Good everyone, in this video today we have a dumb comments episode, and once again we are reaching episode 10. I did promise this was going to be a good one, and we've got some good ones in here, let's put it that way. All I'll say is I have carefully picked out the ones that I think are going to make this episode one of the more memorable ones. And yeah, this is going to be pretty dang good. But of course, as per usual rules apply, so as I always say, please don't go and harass these people. At the end of the day, these are just people who make comments and don't think, or they just don't expect a sarcastic reply or to end up in here. So, yeah, don't go and harass these people. If you want to, criticize someone's comment, do it in a fair fashion. That's all I ask. Alright, so let's begin. We're starting off with thanks to the 4218, you should know that level and, because you can't even spell that right, armament, which you also can't spell, loadouts doesn't equal skill. And if you believe that, which you can't even spell that right, that you're also spelled wrong, the unskilled one, which is also spelled wrong. Yeah, already off to a great start. So this was on my sub request for the A673 Mod 22 Co. And yeah, this was a bit of an interesting one to see for sure. So I replied accordingly with, and you should know what to spot in a KD warrior kind of player. The signs are all there. Competitive planes with higher than 1-to-1 KDR camp or runway camping, only fighting others when others are distracted, etc. etc. This behaviour is typical from this sort of player. Now, if there's one thing I know for certain, the amount of time I've spent in War Thunder, I can point this out pretty consistently. And yeah, it's not exactly difficult to spot. And the fact that you're trying to only insult me and not even try to defend the guy properly just proves that you just didn't think. And not only that, you can't even spell half your sentence right. And this is where I replied with, if I'm apparently the unskilled one, yet he ended with one kill, which was on a bomber, and he's in a P-47 D-28, an incredibly capable plane, and he targets a bomber, whereas I went down after dealing with the Ori 2005 and helped my team to defeat the aggressive Tu-2S and P-47, and I'm in an over-tiered A6M3. Had the roles been reversed, with me in the P-47 and him in the Zero, I would have been able to do a lot more without the need to runway camp, which I don't condone, because I never have. I would have focused on the Ki-84 and Focke 190, as these were far more important than the A6Ms and the Spitfires that were on the enemy team, and deal with the 264 last. Someone who's apparently unskilled in your eyes will not have the brains to put that together, but hey, keyboard wars must be skilled, right? And needless to say, he never replied to that. Because he obviously read half the comment, his brain stopped working, and, well, yeah. But like I said, it's the fact that this kind of person just would just leave a comment without even thinking straight and just think, oh, level and armament doesn't equal skill. It actually does a lot of the time, and that just proves that you've clearly not been paying attention. But hey, who am I to judge? I'm not the one who's running around going, oh, if you don't believe armament, well, if you believe armament and skill and level equals skill, you're the unskilled one. That doesn't even work and completely defeats the point of your comment. But, well, that involves common sense, so yeah. Moving on to the second comment, which is actually on a post, which I was debating not including this because this technically isn't a comment, but it is a comment, so yeah. And this is from Ikmal Ikram 1923. We've had this guy multiple times in the series, and all I'll say is I very nearly lost my patience. So, for context, this is on the Kai 43 free Otsu, where I got the talisman on it, which eventually will be featured in the series. And this is where he makes another false claim. I've been very patient with this person, and I don't think he realizes. So I'm going to say this one last time. I have already done your request. It was done 6 to 8 months ago. I don't exactly remember when. And yeah, I'm getting sick to death of this. I'll be brutally honest. This is your last chance. I've been very patient. That's all I'm going to say. So his comment is simply, God, for the heaven's sake, just play that plane. I've been waiting for 2 years already. No, you have not. Please stop lying. I know lying seems to be something that you do in a daily sort of situation, because clearly that's the only way you seem to be getting attention these days. But the fact is, you're pissing people off, you're pissing me off, and I don't want to be pissed off. So this is basically where I ripped into him in this reply. You have already had your request done months ago, where I even discussed your behaviour in the videos as well. You have continued to lie and spread the false message that I've apparently not done your request for 2 years, which I have proven even in your sub-request video and a dumb comments episode that this is simply not the case. As well as proven you haven't even been on my channel for 2 years. Since you need another explanation, I will provide it for you. During the time you actually gave me that request, I had over 15 sub-requests I had to work on. I didn't get them all done before I took a break. Yours was one of them. And let's not forget, you knew I was under a lot of pressure, and you even said in your comment that you wanted to add more to the list that I already had. I'm not proud of the fact that I had to take a break and wasn't able to do all the sub-requests, but it's something I apologise for when I returned, and made sure the burnout wouldn't happen again, and introduced the cap, which really helped. But again, I wasn't proud of it. But I made amends so that no other subscribers would have the displeasure of dealing with that. And just to add on, because I didn't mention it here, I did actually do his request eventually. Like, obviously, burnout, forgetting, and taking 8 months off. You tend to forget things. He asked for it again, did it, and he continues to act like a spoiled little shit, but we'll gloss over that. And this is where I pretty much point that out. But ever since you asked me for that, you've continued to act like a spoiled brat who spat his dummy out because someone said no to them for the first time. You continue to spread a lie in the comments, and even on this community post that I have apparently ignored your specific request for over 2 years, which again is a big fat lie, and you damn well know it. You've paid no attention to my uploads, and only comment when you feel like it to post about this damn plane. You would have known your request was done months ago if you'd paid the slightest bit of attention. You've continued to spread this 2 years as a hope of getting my attention, when all you've actually done is anger me to this point. I don't know what makes you think you're entitled to be doing this sort of thing, but it is far from acceptable. From now on, any requests you make will be rejected, and any comments you'll make will also be moderated by myself. You have one last chance before your right to comment on my channel is revoked for good. I would not advise testing my patience any further. I think that's a pretty fair summary of the situation, and I think that was a pretty fair reply. Now, yes, I did call him a spoiled brat, which fair enough is a bit of a strong one to really use, but I feel that that was a pretty fair assessment and really summarises what I felt at the time. This was, I think this screenshot's about a month or two old, and I was already under a lot of stress from work, so I'm not saying that I should have called him a spoiled brat, but I'll be honest, the signs are there, so that's kind of why I went there. But Iqbal, I really hope you consider that it is your last chance, and all I will say is just learn from it. I've tried to teach you multiple times now to learn from it, but you just have to show me if it's going in or not. Next up, we have a comment on my Battle Pass Season 12 discussion, keyboard breaking Control-C plus V. This was a pretty negative one because it was just more copy-paste. And this is pretty much where we see someone who is too busy eating Gaijin's ass and not paying any attention to the matter at hand. Now, before I begin, I'm going to quickly state what the context is. So I was very negative in my video on Season 12, which was back when the B7A2 Ryuze was added in the Hamare. And whilst that is a very good plane, I still stand by my point. The point being that this is something where we have to just say, Gaijin, you screwed up, accept it, and pretty much just go from there. Now, obviously, Season 13, I made a very positive video about that because that was very, very good. I'm really happy with how Season 13 has come out. Fair enough, the HMS Gay Archer is actually wrong because the 20mm cannon is missing, which, if you don't actually know what the Gay Archer is, there is literally a picture of it sat in a harbour about 4 hours from where I live, Yeah, she's there with the 20 mil and the 40 mil. So, well done, Gaijin. You can't even get that right. It's on a fucking Google image. But like I said, the fact that this individual named Sweet Dreams, which he's actually been in the Dumb Comment series before, which is quite ironic because he said he wouldn't comment on the channel anymore because of my sarcasm, but well, clearly that's not happening. So his comment is 45 seconds into the video, already so much negativity. Not even going to watch further. Take a break from War Thunder for 6 months, dude, then come back. Maybe you'll enjoy it more. Now, there was more replies to this, but I think these few replies here just perfectly summarizes what the people were feeling at the time when they saw this comment. So I didn't include everything, so if you want to go back and actually have a look at what the rest was, please do feel free to do so. So I'm going to scroll in just to make it a bit easier for you guys to read it. So we'll start off with the loneliness reply. So you're one of the people who think for some reason that negative criticism shouldn't exist since it makes you feel bad. I'd hate to live in a world ruled by your mindset. Flapper replies with, yes, combat negativity with more negativity, the battle pass is objectively bad and being mostly copy and paste. Birdie goes one step further with a rather direct insult, so I'm not going to repeat that. And Munchkin repeats with, mate, he is speaking what the people need to hear over here, and Gaijin is copy and paste all over the place. You know I see your point, if you're enjoying the game, yes, but every game has criticism. And upon that criticism, the game can improve, and the player base can be happier in general. That's his point. Look at the previous battle passes. It's Control-C, Control-V, people will get frustrated at Gaijin's lacking, or might I say, ignorance of their actions, and they could be doing better. Joe doesn't do this shit for the clout, he does this because he wants to. And isn't your ADHD baby toddler head like short brain stimulating content? If it does, you should be happy, mate. He got you to comment in 45 seconds. And bear in mind, Munchkin's only 13, 14, I think. And I think that was a fucking great put down. But on a positive note, Munchkin does actually raise a very good point here. I don't do this shit for the clout. I never have. I don't really care for that sort of thing. Everyone who knows me and everyone knows who I've been running the channel for so long knows that I don't do things for clout. I don't really care about that. If I do something for a bit of fun, I do it because it's fun. If I do a series because I think it's fun, I do it because it's fun. If I do a series which has actually angered some people because they don't like the fact that it's in order, I do it because I want to. I don't care what people think. At the end of the day, it's what I want to do, it's what I choose to do, and it's what people actually prefer me to do. At the end of the day, I've always been a channel that tends to just do whatever it wants to do in terms of the War Thunder series and all that. And I think I've done a pretty good job of that. And the fact that someone who's known me for a few years now, can literally say he doesn't do it for clout, knows exactly what he's on about, as far as I'm concerned. And not only that, it's the fact that Munchkin used to be, let's just say he wasn't the most knowledgeable, and he was rather childish in some of his actions. But the fact that with a bit of years of me guiding him and showing him what he did wrong, the fact is Munchkin's become a much better person. And as you can see in that comment, he can do that. And he actually shows what kind of a person I am, but also shows what I'm trying to do to not only help the game, but also just in general help out. And of course, we'll go on to my last reply here, which obviously there is more to this, as I've said. And this is where I make the most harsh point of it all. Why negativity, you may ask? Because this is a paid product for many players. People buy these battle passes and do not wish to purchase something they can already get for free in the same tree, or another tree as another nation. The whole point of a battle pass is for it to be unique, with unique vehicles, decorations, etc. I also forgot to put skins here. And whilst the decorations and decals haven't changed, the vehicles have. It's lazy copy paste, and I'm calling them out to it. If this is a problem for you, then please take your head out of Gaijin's ass and look around. It isn't just me with this opinion. I've done games design for 4 years. What they are doing is killing the player base as a whole. Reduced playtime, lack of care towards others, etc. These battle passes should not be the way they are now. Give us the 4 vehicles back, all of which were unique and special, or if they can't maintain it, 3 vehicles, all unique. Not this lazy copy paste that a 5-year-old can do on a basic keyboard. That's how I feel about it, and I think I was pretty fair with that. And the fact is that Zweed doesn't even realise, like, he replies later on. and just doesn't give a shit. He doesn't read anything, and it's just like, oh, you're just being negative, and I'm just like, kid, things are negative in life. If we're not negative about something, nothing changes. I'll give you a perfect example of negativity. So here's where some of you youngins might not necessarily remember this film, but some of you older guys might remember the fallout of this. So for those that remember, when the first Sonic film was announced, and Sonic looked absolutely horrible, the outcry was insane. As someone who's grown up with Sonic on like Sonic Heroes on the PS2, I'd rather have the Sonic from the PS2 era on the screen than what they made. But what did that film designer do? He went scrapped the entire thing and remade the film from scratch with a fresh Sonic, and it was amazing. I haven't even watched the second Sonic film with Tails in it, because I just haven't had time. But also, that's just reminded me to do that now because I wanted to bring up Sonic. But the simple fact is, they took that negativity, spent more money on it to remake the film, and they still made a profit. That's all I'm going to say on this regard. But I hope that really opens up your eyes to Weed, because, yeah, that was a very stupid comment to make. Next up, we have one on my A6M5 Co PSA video. This is definitely something where this is more of a person not thinking sort of dumb comment. So the comment itself seems pretty normal at first. Sadly, I can't buy both campaigns, which is made by Flammer. And I said, if you could only choose one, choose this, because the YP38 sucks. He then says, I mean, I can't buy two campaigns due to parent permission. I need to find someone to buy as a gift. And I just replied rather fairly with, the old parent permission. Been there, done that. Sorry to hear, mate. But then, bear in mind, this guy, I don't know. He has only just made on this, or a reply on my channel the first time. And he literally asked me to pay for him to have the Japanese and USA campaign. Now, the thing is, right, is if you was a dedicated subscriber, like Munchkin, for example, because we've just brought up Munchkin a couple of minutes ago. I think this is pretty fair. If Munchkin at the time, if it was his birthday and he asked me for the YP38 before it was being removed, I probably would have bought it for him if that was the case. I think he already has the XP38, so why the hell would he ask me for that? I don't know, but you get my point. The fact is, Munchkin has been in the community for over 4 years, and he's learned a lot from me. He's been a pain in my ass a lot of the time, but he's learned from his mistakes and realised what he needs to do to better himself. And the fact is if he asked me for the YP because he wanted it and he couldn't afford it, and he was pretty much begging me to get it in, I would do it, because Munchkin has changed as a person. I'm not going to fork out my own money to give it to someone who I don't even know, who may just give it away to their friends. And not only that, the Japanese and USA campaign, I'm not buying for you just because you're asking. The simple fact is if I did a giveaway and this came up, sure, I'd do it, because that's a giveaway. That's entirely different. But I'm not just going to give it to a complete stranger who I don't know and has only made one comment on my channel, and that is this very one comment. That's all I'm going to say. And I really think this is just a case of young'un being a bit, well, not thinking straight. And that's understandable because he probably is about 11, 10 or 11, something like that, if I had to make a guess. But yeah, just little advice, mate. All I'll say is don't go and ask strangers for things like that. Like, all I'll say is there's a lot of things that have happened in the past where people have gotten into vans full of free candy and ended up 6 feet under. So, a little bit of a life advice for you. Next up, we have a pretty long one. And this is where we have to show off a little melt. Because if there's one thing this generation, because, yeah, I was born in 2000, but still, I grew up with South Park and Family Guy. There's a bit of a difference. So this is on my Talisman series MiG-334 video, where I went on about questionable guns. and an airfield camper. So in this video, for a little context, before I point out the Melt's reply, which ironically he uses the word melt, about 2 weeks after this video was actually recorded, the Shavaks got a massive buff. Instead of now, they've had a bit of a nerf, but that's besides the point. And in this video, I used armored targets because at the time it was the most consistent. So he goes ahead and just melts in the replies with, bro, just put traces on, they melt everything they touch in this BR. Complain about anything on this plane is really grasping at straws, yet the plane literally has a load of flaws, but we'll gloss over that. It didn't turn. No, it's don't turn. So already I'm having to correct your spelling. Then stop getting into turning engagements, which I didn't. You literally get to dictate that aspect from spawn. And I repeat, I decided to reply sarcastically, and this is where he melts completely. Someone must have forgotten something. It's almost as if there was a micropatch release not long after this video was made, will put out that made Shavak a bit more consistent, and made traces usable as well as ground targets. But hey, who am I to point out things to a keyboard warrior? It has bad traits. Every plane has bad traits. This plane is not flawless. You clearly played it once or twice, probably gotten 3 kills and thing, and thought, oh wow, this plane is so strong, it's flawless. I didn't include the rest of my reply, but still. He then says, Shavaks, because he can't spell Shavaks correctly, have never been underwhelming. I'm sorry, at Joseph2000, because you'll notice he pings me a lot because he really wants my attention. That's like the last gun in this game you can complain about. Alright, since you've clearly not been playing very long, I'm going to have to tell you a little story. So about 4 or 5 years ago, Shavaks got a fucking nerf into the ground. There was a time where me and Harry would take out LA5s and LA7s, and would be doing next to no damage with tracers, ground targets, armored targets, you name it. We tried every belt, and it was doing no damage. Even on my godlike ping of 30, it was doing nothing, because Shavaks did literally nothing. If you was flying Russia, you wasn't flying with Shavaks. You was flying with 23 or 37mm cannons. Nothing more. That's literally what you had to do. And, yeah. This is... Yeah. This is definitely something where... Like... You know, it's something where clearly the knowledge is just not there. You don't know about this. And I'm going to point this out because his reply... after this, it's complete bollocks, because if it was the case, you would know about this, but clearly not. So, not only is this guy talking bollocks, he's also lying, but still. Like I said, so during that time, Shavak was absolutely awful. The B-20S was absolutely awful. B-20M, because that's on some aircraft like the IL-10, was also awful. You never wanted to play Russia for its Shavaks. You wanted to play the planes because they were good. That's as simple as that. Yeah, it is something where you can just point that out. But this is where he says, in his next reply, where he also lies a bit. Also, I never said it was flawless, but dear God, is it one of the more 2.3 OP clubbers? Now, sure, it does have some strong traits, I'm not going to deny that, but I didn't trash on it completely, so I don't know where he's getting this metric from. Pretending otherwise won't serve you well at Joseph2000, because again, he just wants to beg for my attention. And this is where he acts like a complete child with the also, which just sounds like a kid begging for a packet of Skittles in a freaking shop these days. You clearly have played it once or twice, probably gotten 3 kills in the thing, and thought, oh wow, this plane is so strong, it's flawless and so easy to fly. Please don't assume anything ever again. You are clearly very unskilled at it. Go look at my channel. I have a video of me deleting War Thunder 7 years ago. So no, I'm not new to this game. However you may have gotten that idea, I can only imagine. The simple fact is you don't know anything. You go on about tracers when you didn't even look at the date of the video. You say Shavaks have never been underwhelming, which is a complete lie. You act like it's pretty much flawless with the way you're describing, because you literally say up here, complaining about this plane is really grasping at straws, and Yeah, like, I'm sorry. You're just completely contradicting yourself, and you don't even realize this. And this is where the melting takes it even further. I'm just going to read you that line. Tell you what, I'll put my money where my mouth is. New account, bet you in 1 week I can get that plane of to 10 KD, towards 10 to 1 KD. And yeah, all I'll say is, I'm sorry, but you're not proving anything. I could get an I-15 to 10 to 1. Do I think the I-15 is the best biplane in War Thunder? No. I could get, let's say, the Martin 167 bomber to a 5 to 1 KD. Does that make it an amazing bomber? No, because the bomber is awful. The point is rushing to get a high KD doesn't teach you anything. Because the MiG 3 is very good at intercepting bombers, and how do I know you're not just going to intercept bombers? That's all I'm going to say. He does melt a lot further and continues to melt. Well, I don't think he's replied in a while, but he continues to melt. And that's all I'll say. But he even says 2 years ago the MiG 315 BK was meta for 2.3 up tiers. Not really. I've not really heard of a time where someone said that vehicle was meta. Now, sure, we're talking a few, I don't know, talking a few years ago. Sure, maybe some people would say it was a strong plane, but not meta. It had flaws, and there was planes that beat it in pretty much every metric, i.e. BF-109 E1, which even though the E1 didn't get airborne, the fact is it could still keep up with the MiG-3 and beat it in a lot of areas. So that's all I'm going to say. And here comes the real melting. This is a YouTube link for Devin, where he goes on about the MiG-3 just being a clubber, which, yeah, it can do a lot of work. I'll agree to that. I've had my first 10 kill game in a MiG-3. But that doesn't mean that I think it's top dog. And because it isn't top dog. And like I said, he immediately just goes to insulting and just melting because I dared to talk about his precious MiG 3 in a negative way in some form. The MiG 3 does have flaws. It is something that has flaws. Every vehicle in the game has flaws, no matter how little it is. The IS-2, for example, the 44, not the regular one, has great armor, but it has a long ass reload and a really easy lower glacis to pen. And its side armor, whilst it is strong, doesn't save it from anything, even though it's much heavier side armor than what most would expect for a vehicle. The Jagdtiger, incredible frontal armor, but dies to heat, and most importantly, British Sabo. But it has a fucking kick-ass gun. But guess what? That kick-ass gun is stuck on a King Tiger chassis which weighs over 70 tons. And guess what that thing ain't doing very fast? Moving. So what happens? You get cast to death, or you get flanked by light tanks. Not meta. Can you see the point I'm trying to make here? The fact is, melting in the comments and insulting people doesn't solve anything. The fact is, you've come from the fact that you're talking about the old days, but then continue to lie about it and just not really go on about it. And if you deleted War Thunder 7 years ago, how would you know that Shavaks have never been underwhelming? Because they've been underwhelming for quite a few times. So all I'll say is stick to being a keyboard warrior and don't be an idiot. So yeah. Next up, we have one that's a pretty funny one because I have to include at least a funny one in these. We have the Forgotten Vehicles episode on the I-16 Type 18. And this comment is really nothing to, talk about, really. This is just one I threw in for funsies. And he never changed his reply, so, I'm guessing English isn't his first language, but, don't take offense to this, mate. It's just all for a laugh. I found this quite funny, to be honest. Best planet in War Thunder. Now, sure, we do have the Operation Uranus match, which every time I see that, I always call it Operation Up Your Arse, because that's funny and all that. But I must admit, seeing this after a rough day at work definitely put a spring in my step and definitely helped me just laugh for the day. So thank you, Lucas Storello 1615. I know it's obviously your at thing. But thank you for just making me have a bit of a laugh, really, and just really helping me on that day. That was really appreciated. Next up, we have Operation Winter and Summer event advice, as well as Battle Pass advice and all that. All I'll say is this one's quite funny. No wonder you're stuck at 8 comments. Go get a dictionary so everyone can try to understand you, for fuck's sake. And this is where I pretty much just roast the fuck out of him and he never replies. Because the simple fact is, yes, I do talk a little bit fast, but that's why I got a new mic, because this mic is a boom mic. I've mentioned this in the past. So even when I have a fucking mouthful, so like I do now, I don't know if anyone's been able to work that out yet, but it's right on the tip of my tongue and it's really fucking annoying, but, you know. The simple fact is, if there's one thing I try to do, it's I try to explain things in a way that people understand. And clearly, he just doesn't hear or doesn't understand English because, well, he can't even spell "you're" right, and "you" because, well, that's just clearly normal. And the simple fact is instead of throwing an insult, why don't you actually listen? Is it really that hard? No? Or you could turn on captions, which fair enough, the captions are quite funny for some of mine because guys, well, YouTube seem to think that like some of the words they come out with when I'm obviously speaking. It's because of my accent and all that. Well, I say that people from where I live don't really have an accent, but you get my point. And no, I'm not from London because I've had that accusation a few times and it's quite funny. But I pretty much just replied to him with saying, "No wonder you're stuck at 3 subscribers and videos that are better filmed on a potato. Go get a hearing aid since you can't understand basic English, and go up your bitrate for some of your videos/streams. Might actually improve your channel experience and maybe you might have an original roast." Thought that was a pretty fair reply there. And he never replied, so it must have been good enough for me. Next up, we have well, this is just one that just goes to show that people don't read comments, but that's besides the point. This was on the sub request for the Lonius A6M6C video. This was one where I had this in the backlog and I promised him I'd do it, and I made a pinned comment which he would have seen as he was typing a comment. And you can see there, YK asked for me to play the 190A1, which I've had in the past. I swear I've done that playing for him before, if memory serves, and plus with the way the 190s are right now, no. But as you can see there in the pinned comment, please note, this is the last of the sub requests I had on my list before I said I couldn't take any more due to project backlog. This is still the case. But don't worry, I should have a lot of my projects done soon. Don't worry, I will say when I'm free to take more. This is just a simple case of people not reading, and it's not the first time. So don't take offense to that, YK, it's just, I'm pointing it out because you're not the first person. Certainly won't be the last, but like I said, if there's anything that I try to do for you guys, it's just leave your pinned comments to keep you up to date on things. So even on like old reviews, you might find a pinned comment of mine saying, this vehicle's had this changed with this, that, and the other, etc. And in some cases, the older video is just not there because it's unlisted, and there's a fresh one in the works. So there you go. That just summarizes that, and like I said, just a little bit of reading, mate, you'll be fine. And next up, we have the Spade Review comment on the V-12D Chinese aircraft, which I absolutely love this thing. And all I'll say is, this person clearly did not read my reply at all, or watch the video. That's all I'm going to say. This person did not watch the video at all, and just wanted to be a keyboard warrior. Lies, all lies. This plane gets instantly pounced on by virtually everything that flies. I have tried several dozen games in this flying coffin and died horribly no matter what I tried. I'm not a bad player, but this plane is indeed awful. No, it's not. I literally explained that in the video, but you didn't watch that. So I reply accordingly. Considering I have a relatively new player who asked me in this in my Discord, we both took it out, I got an ace, next game he did. I consider this to be very false. The plane has great characteristics, and other than being a little slow, it can kick a lot of ass with mid-war 50 belts and great agility. If you're calling this plane awful, it's possible you are likely charging and expecting massive results, because I'm assuming he'd watched the video at this point. Now I know he's not. Or are not paying attention to surroundings. Heck, I've been goofing off recently in the Firefly Mark 1, which I have, it's been quite fun, is all I'll say, and pulling aces out of that, as of some of my less experienced community members. So if they can do it, anyone can, which in many people's books doesn't make it a bad plane. He then says, "Thanks for the reply. I maintain my original comment though." And this is where I came to the conclusion that he had not watched the video. "I still detest this clunker. It can't climb, dive, turn, or hold energy in a vertical maneuver. Which, yeah, it can't hold it vertical, but otherwise it does everything quite well. The 50's got me nothing but assist after assist all night. I was bitter and angry after getting killed so many times in various different techniques. Only end up getting outturned of his English is like his certain structure is really poor. On or having the weak wings rip off, which this thing's wings do not rip. I will tell you that much. I've never ripped the wings on this thing. Each game, I swear, every plane that saw me made a beeline right for this brick. None of this flying around had other planes oblivious to you lined up perfectly for a shot lol. Hard pass on this thing. I'm done with the V12 for good." Well, if you said that to a car guy, you'd be strangled to death, is all I'll say. Long live the V12 from Lamborghini, is all I'm going to say. Which, they don't do that really much anymore, but still. Yeah. All I'll say is go and watch the video. You might actually learn something, and that might be something you want to use. And finally, we come to a comment which I've been waiting to really pounce on. I've not long took this screenshot and then I thought, oh, I might as well do dumb comments today so I don't forget about it. This is on my most recent video, as of today, on the Tismar. Well, the Tismar video went out yesterday, but still. "You need to slow down your intro." Right. So, this has been something that I've never had before, so I'm going to quickly explain it, just to really come across the point. So, yes, I do talk fast. It is just a habit of mine. I'm a very fast talking person if I'm trying to get a point across or if I'm just trying to get started on something. It's just what I've always been like. Asking me to stop doing what I've been doing for most of my life is like asking me to stop walking. It's not going to happen. And not only that, if you're clicking on a video because it said event vehicles, chances are you're there for the video, not the intro where I say, "Hey everyone and welcome to today's video, and today it's this series or whatever." Like, come on. Come on, man. Like, really? Just, come on. If you're here for the video, just, like, don't worry about it. At the end of the day, it's nothing where you can go, "You need to slow down your intro." What does that solve? Like I said, it's asking someone to not walk. Like, come on. But still, this was just one that I was just like, really? This is a dumb comment if I've ever seen one. And this just, yeah, it was a weird one because it caught me completely off guard because I was like, "What do you mean slow down my intro?" And I literally had to go and look and I was like, "Oh, okay. I talked a little bit fast. Nothing wrong there. You still can make out what I'm saying." And not only that, your only one video, which appeared to be just a live stream or something, was a 3 hour. I didn't understand the language, but that's besides the point. It's just what seemed to be 3 hours of just irrelevant twaddle, where you don't even introduce the video properly and things like that, and just start talking randomly. And yeah, it just if you're gonna call out someone on that, mate, do it yourself. That's all I'll say. So I really hope you enjoyed this one. It's obviously been a bit longer than normal, but I did promise this was going to be a good one for episode 10. I really hope you enjoy this. Obviously, this series will still keep going. Don't worry about that. I know you guys enjoy this series. So do expect to see that at some point. But without further ado, I'm going to leave you all to it for today because I think this video has been like half an hour long. And I will see you all on the next one.